Hi guys, it's Arielle. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you guys are all doing well, welcome back to another sunset podcast. I swear it's really the only time that I can film because as soon as the sun rises, it is so blindingly bright for the entire day. Like there are virtually no clouds on this side of the island that the only time I can film with normal-ish natural light is 15 minutes before the sun sets. So that's where we're at right now. And I honestly have so much to tell you guys. So much has happened that there's no way I can cram it into 15 minutes. So I'll probably start the podcast outdoors and then move inside once the sun really has fully set. And also, it's cold. Like it gets quite cold in the evenings. I'm so sorry, you guys. I did not get to post a podcast on Monday. I haven't posted a vlog in a while. And the reason being is similar to last year, I had another near-death experience, which is insane because I really felt like I learned my lesson last year. I came so prepared with, like, both mentally and with physical objects, like allergy medicines and, why can't I think of the word? Gel, like disinfectant gel. I just really came prepared because last year, if you guys weren't following, I had an incident where I had a type of reaction to the persimmons. I still can't pronounce it, but my throat started to I couldn't breathe. And then by the end of it, I had gotten an infection, which made me end up at the hospital back in Paris for a surgery on my finger. So I really did learn my lesson last year, and I thought I was so prepared. But yeah, I mean, as soon as I landed, I got a little bit sick, honestly. That was a whole other sickness. You guys maybe would have been able to hear it in my videos, but my voice was really rough. I was coughing a lot, and actually by day 5, I had completely lost my voice, as in I couldn't have a conversation because I could not speak words. And that was from all the cigarette smoke, which is actually a crazy culture shock for me because I come from a completely non-smoking family. Like literally none of my family back in Toronto smokes. No one I know in Paris smokes. None of my friends, not Jean's family. And so it's really not something that I ever come into contact with, like secondhand smoke. But it is very common for people in Greece, or at least from my experience on Crete, to smoke quite a few cigarettes, especially in social occasions. And as soon as I landed, there was a couple other people who landed as well, and it was just a lot of celebrating, a lot of spending time with each other, and a lot of smoking as well. And so yeah, I really inhaled a lot of secondhand smoke, and it very quickly badly affected my lungs and my ability to speak. Like I was coughing forever. And you might be thinking, how do you know it was the cigarette smoke? Maybe you got a bug on the plane. But I actually, after about a week and a half, 2 weeks, I ended up going on a 3-day hike, only in the mountains, no smoking, and my voice healed, my throat healed within, I don't know, 36 hours. So yeah, that was the first kind of speed bump, but that wasn't so bad. What happened next is one Saturday I was doing my groceries at the market, and I was picking up regular fruits and veggies that I normally eat back in Paris, like tomatoes, cucumbers, bananas, apples, green beans. And I bring all my groceries home. I'm starting to make dinner. And for dinner, I make the chicken, cauliflower, and cherry tomato pasta sauce that you guys have seen me make on my weight loss journey that I pour over cauliflower. And then to go with that, I just wanted some green beans. Like I eat green beans all the time. I like them. I just boil them, and it's a nice add-on, a nice side dish for my meal. And so I'm cleaning these green beans. Yeah, okay, they look a little bit bigger than the green beans back in Paris, but like nothing crazy. They smell normal, like they taste normal when I eat them. But an hour after I eat them, I text Jean and I go, you know that feeling you get before you throw up? Like the change of atmosphere in your mouth. Like it's just a change, like in the saliva, just in the atmosphere. And I was getting nauseous, and I was feeling that something was not right in my stomach. And I go, I think I need to throw up, but I'm not sure. What do I do? And Jean's like, I don't know. I don't know. And so I waited it out for probably an hour. I think that was the most that I could wait it out. Because after 1 hour, for the next 9 hours, I was violently sick. Like, yeah, I don't want to go into too many details, but very sick, a lot of throwing up, more than I have ever experienced in my life. It was just all night long, over and over and over again. It was very painful. It was very concerning. And then it got to a point as well where I was worried about like being dehydrated, because I would take a sip of water and immediately my body would reject it. And it was like that for 24 hours solidly. And I was so confused because I looked it up, and yeah, apparently you can have this kind of reaction if you eat green beans, even though I've never had this type of reaction in my life before. I'm assuming maybe it's the type of green beans that they grow on Crete. I'm not sure, but the day after, the day after both Jordan and Zeke came over, they brought me soup and tea and stuff. But I showed them the beans, and they were like, these, they tasted them. They're like, they taste normal, they smell normal. This is kind of crazy. But yeah, it wasn't just the day of being sick. It was for an entire week after. I could barely eat food. I could barely drink water. I barely had enough energy to get out of bed. It was really terrible. And I would say about by day 5 or 6, maybe 7, I'm not too sure, I started to feel better, and, life moved on, which was fine. But it was terrible. So that's why I've been gone for a while. It was just a bit of a recovery, but I am back. And like I said, I have so much to catch you guys up on. Before I get into it, though, I do want to quickly toss an idea out there, okay? I haven't prepared for this, so I don't really know what I'm going to say. All I know is that, number 1, I love Galentine's Day. Number 2, I had a really good time at the summer meetup this past summer, and meeting a handful of you guys that were just so cool. Like, genuinely, I had a great time. And so I was thinking, why not combine two awesome things, another meetup and Galentine's? But I don't know, maybe that's too many meetups in a year. Maybe we just stick to one in the summer. So I made a Google Forms survey. I put it on my website. I'll leave it linked down below. And I would love to know your thoughts on a Galentine's Day. If you guys are in Paris, or if you're planning on being in Paris, and if you guys would be interested in doing a Galentine's Day, I don't really want to say meetup, but like a nighttime soiree. You can fill out the Google form, and that way I can gauge interest. I also want to do a better job of organizing than I did this summer. It was like obviously my first meetup that I organized, and I didn't create good forms of communication. Like, I wish I had created a WhatsApp group, for example, so that people could stay in touch, or even just chat before the event or meet each other and stuff. So I think if I do another meetup, I am going to do a better job of that. But back to my vision for Galentine's Day is I would kind of like to do like a dinner at one of my favorite restaurants that I haven't talked about a lot, but I typically do my Galentine's Day at this restaurant specifically. So either a dinner or an event. So all of that is on the survey, the Google form that you guys can fill out. And I was thinking of making it kind of a ticketed event where you could buy a ticket in advance, just because, especially if we're doing dinner, I think it'd be good to have everyone purchase like their own ticket kind of thing. And I was thinking of like a $20 ticket. I normally, with the restaurant that I do my Galentine's Days at, I can work with the restaurant owner and create like a menu and have a set menu and stuff that's good for everyone, with lots of sharing plates. I'm sorry, I'm like giving way too many details. We don't even know if this is happening yet, but let me know your thoughts. If you have time, if you're interested, fill out the Google form. It's just on my website. I'll leave it linked down below. And that way we'll see if a lot of people want to do another meetup, then what the heck? I would love to as well. But yeah, okay, back to Greece. Let me pull up my notes. Okay, the first point that I have is things have been different. And it's true. This year, things have really been different in a lot of different ways. In terms of people, in terms of goals, in terms of lifestyle, just a lot has changed. It's hard to explain because I didn't get to introduce you like in a deep and meaningful way to everyone that I met on my trip last year, but there were quite a few people that I was able to build these kind of relationships with, and coming back a year later, it feels like not a lot has changed, but at the same time, it feels like everything has changed. And I was thinking about how I felt about this, and I think it's similar to when you take a trip somewhere for the first time and everything is unknown and you're meeting all of these amazing people, you're doing all of these really new and adventurous things. You're living like, it's all very exciting. It's all very exciting and new and shiny and sparkly. And then to try and recreate that exact same feeling a year later when it's not really an unknown anymore is very different. And I think I was expecting things to be the exact same when they aren't, and not in a negative way. It's just things are different. And it's been hard for me as well to think of even a video idea. Like last year, I came up with the big documentary / video idea pretty quickly. I knew what I wanted to film. And this year, it's been harder to find inspiration. I do have a video idea that I'll talk about at the end of this video, but sorry, I lost track of, I lost my train of thought because I was reading the comments on my last video and people were saying that I was touching my hair too much and fidgeting. So I'm like, stop fidgeting. But yeah, things are different. One other thing that's different is that I now have a roommate, which you guys will meet because I have filmed a vlog. I'll share that soon. But her name is Sophie. Essentially what happened is George and the farmers here in Irapetra, like the organic farmers, they formed an association and they met other people in France who had their own association that was sort of linked to Greece and olive oil and the Greek culture, you could say. And they, I don't want to call it a collaboration, but they do work together and they visit each other. And I met a couple of the people who were part of the French Association last year, and this year I met some more. And it was awesome because they were the kindest family that I have ever met. Okay? I don't say that lightly because, again, I am not related to anybody here. There is no obligation to anyone here to include me, to make me feel comfortable, to invite me to things. And oh my gosh, this family who came with their daughter, they just immediately included me in everything. Like, I don't have a car here, I don't have a driver's license, so they, drove me to the events, and it was just, they really did welcome me with open arms. And their daughter, who actually lives in Greece, she lives on a different island, she wanted to stay. So her parents left and she wanted to stay. And I was like, oh, well, there's a second bed in my mini studio apartment. You could stay there, no problem. And so she moved in. And it's a good thing that we like each other. Obviously we like each other. We're very similar, I think, in a lot of ways. But the apartment is not made for two people, you could say. Like, there are two beds, but it's still one bathroom. It's still a pretty small kitchen. And it's like storage space for one person. So it's going well. Thankfully, it's going well. And her name is Sophie, if I didn't mention it, and she's awesome. And we actually ended up going on a road trip to Chania, which is at the other end of the island. And so, the reason we went on this road trip, obviously, I'm here to help with the harvest and film that. But as I mentioned in my last video, we can't start the harvest because there hasn't been rain. And I was reading the comments on that video and someone was saying, oh, well, last year there also wasn't rain. Like, what's different this year? The difference is that they haven't had rain in 7 months. Okay, not even a little bit of rain. And it is so damaging to the trees to harvest when they are dry as bone. We did harvest a couple trees yesterday, and it was honestly concerning. As someone who was not nearly as experienced with olive harvesting as all of the other farmers, even I noticed that when we were harvesting these really dry trees, the branches were coming off, the leaves were coming off in much larger quantities than last year, which is not good. Like, you don't want to destroy the tree, right? But it's very problematic because you have to harvest the olives at some point. Like, if it doesn't rain, you do have to harvest them. So, anyways, all that to say, the harvest was very delayed. And Sophie and I were like, well, let's go on this road trip. And so we ended up taking the bus to Heraklion. And Sophie actually had a friend in Heraklion. And she just was like, oh, just a friend, we'll stay with her and stuff. I was like, great. In my head, I'm picturing, I don't know why I pictured, but like a young adult or a student or something. No, this woman, the kindest woman ever, is an actual like national certified tour guide. So she opened her doors to us, especially me, someone she didn't even know. We stayed with her and her daughter. And then the next day, she gave us a full professional tour of Knossos, which is one of the largest archaeological sites from the Minoans that, inhabited Knossos. And then we went to the Heraklion Archaeological Museum, and she gave us another tour. And I was in shock, okay, first of all, by the sheer kindness of a stranger, which is a reoccurring theme you guys will see throughout my time in all of Greece. But it was awesome. I love history. I love learning about new cultures and just learning in general. And so it was just amazing to literally spend 7 hours going on all these tours. And then we rented a car and we drove to Chania, which is on the west side of the island. I'll try and put a map so you guys can see the journey. And I had never been to Chania before. I'd never heard about it. The furthest that I'd been, I think, was Rethymno. And Chania, everyone was saying, you have to go. It's so beautiful. And from Chania, you can access a lot of really great hiking trails and beaches as well. So it was definitely on my list once I, saw pictures and stuff. And I can't drive, but Sophie can. So I was so relieved that she wanted to go as well. And also, again, Sophie had a friend in Chania who also housed us, which was awesome. And I vlogged the whole thing, so you guys will see, because I think it's really hard to explain everything we did in just words. But we went on quite a few hiking trails. We went to a lagoon. We had delicious food. We made awesome memories together. I was thinking about what my favorite part of the trip was, and I wrote it down because it was a hike. So the hike we did was called the Aegea Arini Gorge. It's about a 2-3 hour hike, but to actually get to the hike from Chania, we had to drive through the mountains, and we actually had to go really high up in the mountains as well. And it was the first time in a very long time of living in Europe that I had seen fall colors, like leaves falling and trees filled with red and yellow and green leaves. It was so beautiful, and you wouldn't think that you would see that on an island like Crete, but actually the climate is very different from the west to the east. The east side is very hot, very dry, like I have talked about in my videos. George and his field, they're on the east side, near Rapetra, and Chania is all the way on the west side. So it's a lot more luscious. It's green. They get a lot more rain, and they even get snow in the winter, which is crazy to think about. But my favorite memory was driving through the mountains, and we ended up stopping at the restaurant owned by Sophie's friend's husband. Her friend from Heraklion, her husband, owns like an Airbnb restaurant in the mountains on the way to the gorge. And Crete is not touristic in the winter. There are very few tourists. Everything we did, we were pretty much the only people doing them. And so in the summer, normally he has a lot of people that are passing through that are going to hike in the gorges. And so he does get quite a bit of tourism, but here we were the only people. Okay. We had the whole restaurant and everything to ourselves. And it was so interesting to spend time with Yorgos, to hear about his life. He not only he runs it with his mom, the restaurant and the hotel, but he's also a shepherd and a beekeeper and an olive farmer. He's doing and a cheese maker. Okay. We had his homemade cheese at the restaurant, and it was just so interesting to see where he's from. It was so unique in the mountains, and hear about that lifestyle. And actually that inspired me. It gave me the video idea for what I want to film in Crete with George, which is 24 hours with an olive farmer. It sounds basic, but on this trip, I've met so many different types of people. I've seen a lot of different walks of life, I want to say, and I'm so curious. Like, I'm so curious about how a shepherd would spend his day, or how a monk spends their day, or how a cheesemaker spends their day, or a fisher, whatever, the list goes on. And so I thought I could make it a series, 24 hours with whatever, starting with George, the olive farmer. But yeah, that was my favorite memory. I can't wait to share that vlog with you guys. And it also really inspired me to write a travel book, which sounds basic. Okay, I get it. Like, there's lots of travel books out there. But what I think makes my perspective different when I travel, I mean, not really, but I just film it, But I'm always looking for the culture. Like, my favorite way to visit a place isn't to go on vacation. It's to go and to live there, like I'm kind of doing here in Crete, where I'm living for a month. And I'm getting to meet a lot of Cretans, a lot of different Greek people, to understand their culture that they so kindly and generously share with me. And I learn all of these different things, from different types of restaurants, where you should eat, where you should go to hike, dishes that you should try, special souvenirs that you can bring home, like all of these different tips that I want to write down in a book, I am working on a guide for Crete, like similar to my 24-hour guides for Paris, but maybe for like 2 or 3 days. I thought that could be fun to create, so stay tuned. But yeah, overall, it was just a couple days that we were gone on this road trip, but it was very inspiring. It was very fulfilling. And it's so different from my life in Paris that sometimes it's really refreshing to experience something so wonderful and unique and different from your life, your regular life, that it gives you energy and inspiration and all of that. So that was awesome. I have a list of things actually that I took away from the road trip. Number 1 is girlhood, or womanhood, or whatever you want to call it. I do have to say that I obviously love being in a relationship. I love Jean with my whole entire heart. But the way that I am in a relationship is very different from the way that I was single. For example, when I was single, I traveled all the time by myself. And because I'm so extroverted, while I was traveling, I literally spent every single day meeting new people and making new friendships and doing things totally outside of the box that other people suggest that I would never think of. And you just get to do new things and meet new people that you wouldn't regularly do in your life. And I think that when you're in a couple, at least for me, when you travel, it's mostly with your partner, and you plan out your trip and everything is so organized, and you stay in a hotel and you're not focused on building relationships with new people. You're focused on spending time with your partner. And so what I really appreciated was going on this road trip with Sophie, spending hours together, sleeping in the same bed, in the same room, being in the same car, going on all these hikes, just all of this time together. It was so wonderful to reconnect with not just like another person, but another woman. And it was so fulfilling. And I really feel like Sophie is a person, a friend that I'm going to have for the rest of my life. Like, I'm so thankful to have met her. And it just reminded me of making sure that I make the time to reconnect with who I am, as not as a single person, but who I am as a person, and making sure that I'm, taking the time to be my extroverted self and meet all sorts of new people, even when I go back to Paris. It's something that I definitely struggle with, like, since I've been in a relationship and stuff. And then another thing that I really, sorry, last topic, and then we'll go inside, because it really is like the only thing that's illuminating me is my laptop. But the other thing that I learned, or that I am starting to learn, because it's a process, but that you don't need to be skeptical. You don't need to be fearful of everything, and it can change the world to be kind. I realize that's a lot. Let's talk about kindness. As you guys would have seen last year, and as I've talked about this year, the people that I have met in Crete, whether they're French, whether they're Greek, whether they're English, they have been so overwhelmingly kind to me. And it's something that is very hard to wrap my mind around, because like I've said, I'm not related to anyone here. There's no financial gain to be had helping me. Like, people don't need to share their culture, to share their life, to share their food, to share their time with me. And just over and over again, I am blown away by the kindness that people have shown me, and how much it's improved my life, how much it's made me happy. And I just want to make sure that I'm really learning from this, and that I'm giving that same kindness to other people that I meet in the future, which is where I get into the whole you don't need to be skeptical of everything, because living in Paris, you do become, I think, more fearful. You have more anxiety, more stress. You're more skeptical of people's intentions, because it's very easy to get burned in a city like Paris, whether it be pickpockets or robbers or just generally people who have bad intentions. It's easy to have your guard up, and slowly I'm kind of letting that guard down. And the way that I link this to kindness is that when I went to Heraklion with Sophie and Chania with Sophie, Sophie's friends housed us. They had never met me. They had no idea who I was, if I was a safe person, if I was an honest person, and they welcomed me into their homes. And not only did that help me, but it made my trip 1,000 times better, because they also gave their time to me and their knowledge to me and their culture to me. Like, sorry, I don't want to get too deep here, but it really made me realize that there is so much value in being kind, in welcoming other people, and in sharing what you have. This trip really set that in stone for me. Okay, let's bring this party inside. Before we do go inside, though, let me just show you how beautiful the sky is. Ugh. The video will never do it justice, but the colors are so beautiful. All right, we're indoors, specifically on my bed. And you can tell why I don't like to film in here at night. I feel like the light is not giving. It's not giving anything good. I'm drinking my nightly coffee because I have a lot of work to do tonight. And I also just put my sweet potato fries and carrot fries in the oven. I have to say, that is for sure one thing. I mean, on top of missing Jean, I also really miss cooking. I miss my kitchen. I miss the convenience of being able to walk to get groceries. My goodness, what a luxury that I totally take for granted in Paris. Like, no matter where you are in Paris, within 100 meters, you have several different grocery stores. And where I'm living on Crete is, like, not in a city, the furthest thing from that. And you can take the bus into Irapetra, which is the closest city, but the bus comes every 3 hours, and the bus back to the village, you have to wait another 2 or 3 hours. So getting groceries is kind of an ordeal. I'm very much dependent on and grateful to people who drive me in to grab groceries and then drive me back. But yeah, it just means that if I run out of groceries, I'm kind of just stuck with what's in the fridge, which at the moment is sweet potato and carrots and granola bars. Although that's really one thing that I learned from Sophie, because she is, oh my God, she is big on hiking. It's like what she does for work and stuff. And I obviously didn't prepare at all to go on hikes on this trip. And so I'm like doing these hikes in the shoes that I bought at the thrift store to work in the fields with. Okay, they're not great. I didn't bring any type of snacks and stuff. And every time when we're on the hiking trail, Sophie will whip out like a Tupperware of dried figs and nuts and little sesame seed bars. And so yeah, I've also picked up dried figs and nuts that maybe I'll have for, sorry, I'm looking over here because that's what the kitchen is. But yeah, okay, so let's get back on track. I think the last thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about was why can't I speak? I am back in the village now. Sophie is staying in Chania for a few more days. She has a couple friends there that she wants to see. And once George told me that the harvest was going to start, I was pretty eager to get back to help and to film. So yeah, we are doing harvesting this week. It was really cool, actually. George had a couple that he's friends with that lives in France, but has like a second home near Irapetra, and they have some olive trees. And George went with them to harvest their olive trees, and they took those olives to the olive mill yesterday. And it's not the olive mill that I usually go to with George, which you guys will see. I can't wait to film it. It's so magical. It's the one I go to with George is in the mountain, and it's specific because it's the only mill where George can mill his aromatic olive oils, and he can only mill them at night after all the other farmers have milled their olives. So we're there when we go. We'll be there at like between midnight and 2 a.m. milling the olives, and it's just a very fun time. So normally that's the mill we go to, but this one was a mill closer to the village, and it's much smaller, so you really can see the entire milling process by just turning your head. And so it took about an hour and a half for the olives to be milled. And when it gets to the final step, it's very cool because you can see the fresh olive oil coming out and being strained. And then it's kind of like a gas machine. I took a video, so I'll try and put it in for you guys. But basically you use the gas machine pump, to fill your bottles with olive oil. And they were so sweet. They actually let me fill a water bottle with the fresh olive oil. I want to show you guys because I don't think it's the color that you would expect. So this is the water bottle that they let me fill. You can see that it almost looks green, and this is really, really good quality olive oil. When you mill your olives and you get the oil, you test the acidity right away in the mill. And in order for an olive oil to be considered extra virgin olive oil, there's a bunch of different criteria, but one of the ones that you can quantify is that the acidity of the olive oil is less than 0.8%. And this olive oil that they gave me is 0.6. So this is really good. It's very aromatic, and it's awesome that it's so fresh. But yeah, I have a plate because I want to show you what the color of this oil actually is like on a white surface. It almost looks fluorescent green. So yeah, the first day of harvesting was great. It was very fun. It's definitely a lot of hard work. I almost forget how intense it is. It's a lot of arm work with the machines, and even like your neck gets sore from staring at the top of the tree. But it is really fun because it's definitely a moment that you spend in community, I want to say. The olives that we harvested actually weren't even George's, but I mentioned this last year how all of the farmers work together. So one day we go to one farmer's field, and then the next maybe we'll go to George's, and the next we'll go to Michaelis, and you know, everybody shares their time and their machines, and it is really fun. So yeah, that's the tea. I'm not too sure what the plan is for tomorrow. It's kind of up and down this week. The plans are not clear. But next week we should really be getting into the swing of things. And I just really can't wait to take you guys to the olive mill on the mountain. But yeah, I think that's all I had to talk to you guys about. I will say I feel like I'm just yapping at this point, but I really like posting daily vlogs. Like the 2 vlogs that I posted of, just a day in my life in Crete, I found that to be really fun. So maybe I'll continue that when I go back to Paris. I was even thinking that maybe I'll take TikTok seriously and do mini videos on TikToks of my regular day to day. And that's what I mean is coming here really changes my ideas, gives me new ideas, inspires me to do new things. So yeah, I love coming here for so many reasons. The people, the harvest, the food, just everything, being creative. I love it. But yeah, I think that brings us to the end of today's podcast. I was thinking that on my Instagram story, I might post a little question box. That way you guys can let me know if you have any questions or comments specifically about Crete or Greece or the olives or George, and that way I can try to answer them either in a vlog or my next podcast. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for bearing with me in the bad lighting across the board of this podcast. And if we harvest tomorrow, I'll vlog it so you guys can see that. And I don't know, if not, I'll see you in a few days. Oh, and Valentine's Day. Don't forget Valentine's Day if you want to fill out the form, the survey down below. Okay, bye.